very ordinary moments. And at the start of a new year, that might be the truth that we need the most. So John says he was in the world and the world did not know him. Sometimes God shows up and we don't realize it until later. Sometimes the light slips quietly into the room before we know we needed it. And sometimes grace walks towards us long before we have the courage to ask for help. And of course, John isn't naive. He knows there's darkness, real darkness, the kind that steals sleep, the kind that makes us feel small, the kind that whispers, "You're alone in this," the kind that hangs around after the holidays, once the noise settles and the company leaves. But John makes a very bold claim. The light shines in the darkness. Not away from it, not after it, right in the middle of it. And the darkness cannot overcome it. The good news isn't that we won't face darkness. The good news is that we will not have, it's that we will have the last word, that it won't have the last word. So I want to tell you a story from this congregation. Now, full transparency, Jacob told me this story because Jane Worsley told Jacob the story. Because someone went into Dr. Weaver's office and told Dr. Weaver about it many years after it happened. It's a story from this congregation back in the Great Depression that captures this truth in a way that still feels very holy to me. It's one of those stories that you won't hear in a meeting. You won't have read it in a newsletter. It's been carried very quietly and tenderly because of how deeply it touched those who carried it. And I tell you this story not to shock you, but to remind you how close darkness can come and how close the light already is. So years ago, a man and his family in this church had fallen on incredibly hard times. Life had been unraveling faster than he could hold it together, and work was drying up and bills were mounting, and the fear of not being able to feed his family was quite real. Things had become bad. And he and his wife had a baby, and they were living in a chicken coop. And when things get that heavy, shame starts to settle in. And he didn't want anyone to see how bad it really was and that it had gotten, so he slipped away from church. Now, one particular morning, after too many nights of despair, he reached his lowest point. And he and his wife convinced themselves, with the kind of terrible logic that despair creates, that they had no more options. And that morning, they decided to take the life of their child and then their own. And that's the kind of darkness that John is talking about. The thick, airless kind of darkness where no light seems possible. But that very same morning, the minister at the time, who I understand is a man named the Reverend Bugsby, if I got his name wrong, I apologize, sir. But he woke up with a thought. It was nothing dramatic. It was no angel. It was no vision from heaven. Just a little tug in his spirit that said, I haven't seen him in a while. I should go check on him. So he went to that family, and he found them in that chicken coop. And he said, quite simply, how can I help? And those 4 words interrupted everything. They broke into the silence. They cracked through the despair in that space. They changed the entire course of that family's life because the Reverend Bugsby showed up. And I imagine it was like God showing up, somebody finally seeing them, not with the I can fix everything, not making all the problems disappear, just how can I help? And that seeing saved lives. Reverend Bugsby had no idea what he was walking into. He didn't even know that he was carrying Christ's light that day. He didn't know that the Spirit had nudged him into a life or death moment. He just responded to an ordinary pull in his heart. But that's the thing. That light shines in the darkness, whether we realize it or not. And that's not just a story about the past. That's exactly what John is trying to put words to. This is what it means when John says, the Word became flesh and lived among us. Jesus didn't become an idea or a sentiment. He didn't become a memory or just a metaphor. He became flesh. He stepped into the human world. He moved into our neighborhoods. He entered into all the mess and beauty and sorrow of real life. And he still does. He shows up in moments that we thought were empty. He shows up in people who didn't know they were carrying him. He shows up in nudges that we can't explain. He shows up when someone looks us in the eye and sees past the mask that we've been wearing. He shows up when we feel unseen and someone crosses a threshold and knocks on our door anyway. God does not stay far away. God moves towards us. And this, John says, is grace, not a single act of kindness, but grace upon grace. Grace that keeps coming. Grace layered over grace. Grace unearned, unasked for, and unstoppable. Now, maybe you've had seasons when you felt like that man, not in the same details, but in the same emotion. Maybe you've had moments you wondered if anybody truly saw you. Maybe you've walked through a season that was shadowed that nobody else knows about. Or maybe someone here today is carrying something heavy into this new year, a diagnosis, a fear, a loneliness, a secret, a sadness, and you're not sure where God is in it. Hear John's promise for you. Jesus is not far off. Jesus is not waiting for you to have it all together. Jesus has stepped into the very place where you feel most afraid or most alone, and the light is already shining in your darkness. Even being here today matters more than you know, because your presence in this room, your prayers, your listening, your quiet faithfulness is not incidental. God works through gathered bodies, through shared space, and through people who simply keep showing up. And you do not have to see it clearly for it to be true. John doesn't tell us to chase the light. He tells us to notice it, to trust the nudges, to honor the interruptions, to let ourselves be seen, to slow down enough to recognize hints of grace, and to be willing, even quietly, to carry light to someone else. And sometimes those nudges feel inconvenient, and they're uncomfortable, and they're easy to ignore, and God's grace meets us there too. And sometimes faith looks less like being the one who knocks and more like having the courage to open the door when someone does. Because sometimes the way Christ shows up for us is through us. So as we step into this new year, I want you to imagine that moment from the story one more time. A minister standing at a door he didn't plan to knock on, carrying light he didn't know he was holding, interrupting darkness he didn't know existed. And I want you to hear this. The same light that found that family that morning is already walking into 2026 with you. Already standing on your doorstep. Already stepping into whatever shadows you're facing. And you do not walk into this year alone. The Word has become flesh again, and the darkness cannot overcome him. Thanks be to God. Amen. So I'm going to take a moment just to remind you of a few things that are happening now. One of them is that Matthew's Eagle fundraiser is getting ready to happen. We've got soup at both doors that you can purchase. That soup goes to his shed that is being, I know Alan Hall. I wish somebody could put the camera back on him doing this at me. There's a shed. It's going by the Mission Garden. It's for tools and equipment, and it's much needed, and Matthew has taken it upon him to do an Eagle Scout project to make that so. So please stop and leave a donation. Take a cup of soup if you're willing and if you're able. Second thing is, Alan, why chicken, I don't know, want y'all to know that Thursday night is men's catch and release. It's at 6 o'clock, but here's the thing. It's an oyster roast. And so it would be very nice if y'all would let him know. He's waving his hand because clearly y'all don't know who Alan Hall is. That silent chicken in the back of the room. Great, this is on the internet, Alan. We're doing good. Please let him know if you intend to be here on Thursday night for the oyster roast so that we can have enough oysters and not too many because I don't like them and I'm not eating leftovers. On that note, your ministry of presence here matters. Whether you're a visitor or a lifer or anyone in between, I'm so grateful that you're here, and we are so grateful that you're here, partnering and being the hands and feet in this church and in this community and making that light shine. If you haven't made your relationship official, you can step right up, see one of the elders, and we can make it so. And if you have, I remind you that it's a commitment you make again each and every day to choose the light and to step out and to be the hands and feet. So with that, I invite you to stand as you are able, and we'll sing our closing song.
Where can I go? There's nobody else to turn to. Who do I talk to? When nobody wants to listen, who do I lean on? No foundation stable, go to the right.
Now, apparently, because we are a church who welcomes all, women are invited on Thursday night. Woo! So now y'all really better talk to Alan Hall. And he's hopping about it. So, on that, go out into this world and bring the light into the darkest of places. Be the face and the heart that folks need to see. And if someone is coming at you and they are that light, take it and accept it and help it grow you and build you up so that you can go and make more disciples. Amen.
I go to the rock of my salvation. I go to the stone that the builders rejected. I run to the mountain and the mountain stands by me. When the earth all around me is sinking sand, on Christ the solid rock I stand. When I need a shelter, when I need a friend, I go to the rock. I go to the rock of my salvation. I go to the stone that the builders rejected. I run to the mountain and the mountain stands by me. When the earth all around me is sinking sand, on Christ the solid rock I stand. When I need a shelter, when I need a friend, I go to the rock. When I need a shelter, when I need a friend, I go to the rock. When I need a shelter, when I need a friend, I go to the rock.